a sec. All right. Okay, man. All right, guys. KingSithis here, back at it with another live stream. We got ourselves here, my friend. Uh, what's your name again? Evolutionary
Evolutionary
Capitalist.
capitalist.
Yep, I got my friend Evolutionary Capitalist here, and we met through some comment sections on my YouTube channel. He seemed to take some issues with some of the arguments that I was making, and we were talking back and forth in the comment section. And I told him, hey, if you want to have a discussion, let's set it up. And here he is. He agreed, and here he is. So introduce yourself, say hello.
Hey, I'm evolutionary capitalist. I created my own ethic that's built upon evolution,
Mhm.
and so I think evolution will dictate what the true market is, not a free one. I think anarcho-capitalism has misrepresented market ethics when they adopt Lockean principles of property, which is ultimately just a clone of democracy.
Okay.
So, like, I'm here to argue about a lot of the foundational principles of anarcho-capitalism because I think they're logically inconsistent
Hmm.
and they misrepresent the market or what a true market will look like when we get past modern democracies.
Okay. So it seems you had an issue with argumentation ethics. If I could explain argumentation ethics, or my view, or from what I've seen or heard from argumentation ethics, it seems that argumentation ethics is essentially basically that any person that makes an argument, even if they're making an argument that they want to commit an aggression, that they're being kind of hypocritical, because if you wanted to commit an aggression, you would just simply commit an aggression. And if you make an argument, well, then you're presupposing that making an argument is better than making committing an aggression. If you wanted to commit an aggression more than making an argument, you wouldn't make an argument. You would just commit an aggression. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, that's the correct, at least from an Austrian perspective, that's the correct interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But logically, it's an invalid argument. ANCAPs misidentify the necessary conditions. In logic, they call presuppositions necessary conditions.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a problem with that, right? Like instead
No,
of
yeah, like
or
if I'm not mistaken, like you have to presuppose it, be if you're making
it's a
that.
necessary condition,
Mm-hmm.
right? In order to have a verbal debate, I have to have control of my vocal facilities or
Mm-hmm.
mouth, and I have to have a mic. In order to have this particular debate, I need a microphone and maybe a computer, right?
Yes.
So just by us having this the debate, we can necessarily conclude that we have all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I claim is what makes argumentation ethics or that the argument invalid is you guys misidentified the necessary conditions for argumentation.
Mm-hmm.
What's so what's truly necessary? Um, so the non-aggression principle, and the self-ownership principle are universal statements. You agree with that, right? So let's just um, let's just narrow it down to the non-aggression principle for the moment. The non-aggression principle says uh, everybody at all times for all interactions should use non-aggression, right? You agree with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, like you don't have the right to commit an aggression if someone hasn't committed an aggression against you.
Yeah, I mean it's
That's another way of saying it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
another way of saying it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I like the word should. Like everybody should use at all times for all interactions. Use non-aggression over aggression.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, I
fair to
could agree
say,
with
right?
that. Yeah, it's fair to say.
So that is not the necessary condition for argumentation. Uh, the only thing necessary for us to argue, and I would even contest this, right? I don't even have. So if I were generous, I would give you the fact that I only only it's an existential statement. It's not a universal statement. by us having a debate, I'm saying sometimes we should use non-aggression.
Yes.
That's the only necessary condition. So you can see, in contrast to a universal statement, that we should always use non-aggression versus sometimes we should use non-aggression. So when I make an argument that sometimes we should use aggression, you can see it's totally compatible with that other statement. That's the true necessary condition for argumentation. So you would agree that these two statements are completely consistent. Sometimes we should use non-aggression, and sometimes we should use aggression.
Not if you're making an argument.
No, but you see, the only so if I were to be
It would be hypocritical, I would
non-generous,
say.
it's not hypocritical because so for instance I could be saying I could be arguing in the case of someone else, right?
Mhm.
When we're arguing, it involves only us. But I could say like, oh, Timmy over there should cut the throat of his mother while she's asleep, and we could continue on with the debate. And I have violated no necessary condition here. The only necessary condition is that sometimes non-aggression should be used, and in particular, for this argument to continue, I should only respect your property rights or your self-ownership at this moment. But
Yeah, all you're doing
I'm
is, it seems, is all you're doing is making an argument that somebody else should commit an aggression.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I have violated no necessary condition because the only necessary condition for us to carry on with this argument is that I respect you and you respect me, right?
Mhm.
But I'm talking about Timmy and his mother. So I mean, I can generalize it by saying again, the only necessary condition for two people to argue is that sometimes non-aggression should be used. But an argument could be made that sometimes aggression should be used.
Well,
And
you could make that
there's
argument, but if you make that argument, you're basically saying that in this instance, while I'm making the argument, that I prefer to make an argument over committing an aggression, even if you say you prefer it.
Yeah, but as long as I don't reference in my argument this particular moment with just us two, I have made no performative contradiction, and that's being generous. I mean, if I were
Well, I
not
mean, if you're
generous,
talking about yourself, well then yes. I mean, if you're talking about another person, I mean, you can't. I mean, that's a little bit different because
there's no
you
there's
can't control them.
yeah, but there's no violation of the necessary conditions. There's no contradiction being made.
Well, if you say
It's,
that you think somebody else should commit an aggression over making an argument, wouldn't that
yeah,
be?
because I'm just so when I'm arguing with you, I'm saying I have to respect you only in this moment,
Mhm.
and you have to respect me, right?
Yeah.
That's the only necessary condition. That doesn't violate that doesn't contradict my argument that Timmy should cut his mother's throat while she's asleep, right? So it's just
Well,
so
I mean,
what you're
it may not be you being the one that's committing an aggression, but if you're making an argument, you're basically saying that you think making an argument is better than committing an aggression.
not all the time. It's again sometimes
Well, then
you
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 wouldn't
you
make the
can't
argument
over.
then.
Yeah, I would because
That would be
it's
hypocritical.
it's it's not hypocritical. It's not hypocritical because again, the only thing necessary for an argument to take place is the existence of non-aggression, right? Again, I sent you a link of logical quantifiers, right?
Mhm.
So I it's the same as saying it's a logical fallacy. It's an inductive fallacy. It's an overgeneralization of the necessary conditions for argumentation. So, for instance, if you see me eating, that doesn't mean I always want to eat, right? So when you see
Yeah,
me,
but wouldn't you argue that actions are purposeful?
oh, rational maybe. Are you
Well,
referring
they're
to
purposeful.
praxeology?
There's a purpose for it. You have a means to an end.
I can accept that as an axiom. Rational action is purposeful,
Mhm.
or you
So
have a goal
if
in mind.
yeah,
If you're not
so
like just,
mhm. So if somebody
but
is
if
choosing to eat an apple over not eating an apple, their purpose of that is to eat the apple.
Uh, to have an ultimate goal in of of itself is kind of weird, right?
Well, that's
Like an ultimate
you're
goal.
using a means to an end, and your actions are purposeful, which means that you don't do things for no reason. You do things for a reason. Um,
Wait,
we tr-
so
we do things
s-
because we believe right now where I'm in a lower amount of dissatisfaction. If I feel like I do this thing, I will get more satisfaction from doing that thing. I may not be, and I may be mistaken. I may make a mistake, but
yeah.
every time I make an action, I'm doing it purposefully. No,
So
nobody else, because if to make an other argument, you would basically have to presuppose somebody else is controlling you.
so we're going into subjective value, I think, here, right?
Well, I think that in the end of the day, it's kind of like I guess I'm making more of like a free will argument, which is that you choose your own actions. So therefore, if you do something and your actions are, and we can assume your actions are purposeful, then I can assume that the things that you are doing, you are choosing to do, unless of course someone else is in control of you, or you're unable to control yourself.
Sure. Okay.
Hmm.
I can accept that as an axiom.
Hmm. So
But
if you
like you said, you
choose.
can make a mistake, right? So value is not subjective.
Oh yeah, it's not subjective. I mean, it's not objective. As in,
No.
sometimes sometimes people could make mistakes. As in, you don't know whether or not something is going to fulfill your end until you actually do
Yeah.
it.
And that's what I call value, the actual utility that happens after an action.
Hmm.
So you would agree that value or utility is objective.
No, it's
The
subjective
payoff.
because you don't really know whether or not something is a good or a good means to an end. I guess depends on the person who's making that action.
That doesn't how a means satisfies an end is completely objective. It's not subjective.
Well, as whether or not it satisfies
Fulfills a
that
good.
fulfills that end is subjective
Yeah.
because you may do something
How
and not like it even if you
how is that
choose to do
dependent
it.
upon the mind? How well a means satisfies an end?
Well, because
How is that how is that dependent upon your mind?
that's the
You could be
reason.
wrong. You just admitted you could be wrong.
Well, yes, but the thing is that's the reason why we choose to do things, to figure out whether or not that means that end is good. So for instance, like,
That's expected value.
mhm.
That's
So if
expected
I eat
utility.
a if I have
Uh,
an apple, I'm my actions are purposeful. So if I eat that apple, I expect that I will be more satisfied in eating that apple than I was before. That's a
yeah,
purposeful action.
that's it's called expected value in
Mhm.
decision theory,
Yeah, so it's not
right?
always gonna be that way. I could
Yes.
bite into an apple and there could be a worm in it, right?
Mm.
And I could have made a
Or
mistake.
poisonous.
Yeah, or it could be poisonous. So
So
whether, yeah.
what actually have the actual consequences to that action is what I call value or utility or
Hmm.
benefit. What you expect to happen is just expected utility.
Hmm.
It's not true value. So
It's it's
the actual
subjective.
so no, so you would agree that the consequences are objective. If you die from poisoning, that doesn't depend on your mind. If it actually satisfies your hunger, that doesn't depend on your mind. That depends upon the inherent properties of the good of the
That
apple
depends
in this
on
case.
whether or not you consider that means to an end to be better than not doing it.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It
Because if you don't, the only way you
what
can
you
tell whether,
perceive doesn't.
yeah, the only way you can tell whether you're satisfied from eating something is if you actually are satisfied from it, and that's a subjective opinion.
No, that's not the only way. I mean, you can we know things about human hunger. It's a signal that you need at least calories, let alone some nutrients, right?
Yeah, but there are
Those
some
are all
people who
measurable,
um, would
and
be that are
everybody's
happier not
digestive
eating.
system is very similar.
There are some people who want to starve themselves and are okay with starving themselves. It isn't an objective truth that food is a good.
But every time you set out to accomplish a goal,
Hmm.
the means are all the how well any means satisfies that goal is objective. What I mean is the solution set to any goal is objective. We try to perceive the objectiveness of each of our options, and we try to pick the best option.
But what
Right.
is the
So
best option? There is no objective best option.
it is each goal is like a math problem. It's a problem faced for the actor. Right.
But whether or not
All math.
there's the problem with that argument is that when you look at the solution, there is a clear answer, but there is no clear answer to the solution to these problems. It's
There is always a clear answer, and the actor himself. What the subjective theory of value says is the actor has basically a monopoly, the final say on how well a means satisfies his goal.
Mhm.
Right? That's
Is that not
ridiculous.
true?
That no, obviously,
Then
you
who
can
makes that
point to a
decision?
case like, for instance, with kids or babies, it's the parents because they have more experience, they have more data to make better decisions for their kids.
Well, the thing is,
So
children
the mind
are.
is
Hold on,
you
let
would
me
agree.
explain that real quick. The thing about children is that they are unable to reason the same way as an adult can. So it's not that they're not able to make decisions for them. They are able to
That's a
make
general
decisions, but the
blanket
thing is, they're
statement,
not
though.
old enough to understand the decisions that they're making for themselves. So what we do
Is
is
it really age? Is it really age that determines that?
well, it's your mind. It's how well your
Okay.
brain is developed, and usually
So
you're
so
around a
kids
certain
can be
range. Hold on, let me
so
finish.
kids
What I was just gonna say is that around a certain amount of age, that's before that age, we usually
around.
give the guardian role to another person who is able to reason to make those decisions. But that person still owns themselves and is able to make their own decisions.
Uh, who is this giving the final say? Who's giving the authority? You
Well,
said we
usually the
give.
parents or the person who's adopting that child.
So the parents have the final say on when the child can make decisions.
Well,
I thought
as to
wait,
what, well, like, what decisions can be made on the child's behalf. So, for instance, like a child can't choose to go and buy cigarettes. You know what I mean? Because they aren't fully responsible. They don't fully understand the ramifications of doing things like that. So,
who makes but self I heard you say before that like self ownership is being able to control your body,
mhm.
right?
But the thing is,
So
but children
by
aren't
that strict
able.
definition,
Yeah.
by
So,
that strict, you would have to change the definition of self ownership to
oh well.
accommodate that.
So you still own yourself. The thing is, you're unable to make
But
decisions.
wait. So you would have to but you would have to redefine self ownership to accommodate that.
Allow me to
You
explain.
can't.
So you still own yourself, but the issue is that you're unable to make decisions as to what to do with yourself because you don't understand the full ramifications because you're a child. So we have to give the
But you would
guardian.
agree that you would
So if
agree some
somebody is,
children can.
huh?
You would
Oh,
agree. You agree age is not the determining factor, right?
it's
Some
mental
kids can make
development.
better decisions than adults, right? So then some adults should be owned by someone else or
Well, if
controlled by someone
you
else at the very least.
well, not necessarily controlled, but the thing is, there are some people who, and you would agree, I'm sure you would agree with this. There are some people who have mental disorders, mental disabilities that cause them to lack the social development to be able to make decisions for themselves and on
Who
their
has
own
this
body.
say in
So
an
because of
economy?
that, yeah, like if you're mentally handicapped, you would give and you're unable to make decisions for yourself for your own body, then you would hand the guardianship role to another person, or like either a family member
Who's
or
giving the guardian this right?
usually the family or somebody who would adopt that person, like the parents, maybe generally.
So but who's determining all this? Like so what decisions can an adult make for a kid? Like can he prostitute his kid?
No, no, you can't violate the non-aggression principle of that child. You could raise
What
them.
if wait, who's giving the consent here though? I thought the adult had the
The
exclusive
child, you can't.
rights to
No,
consent for the
let's.
kid.
You can make decisions for the child, but you can't violate that child's non-aggression principle rights. So, for
What if
instance,
the
if
kid
you want to
wants to
take your
consent?
kid and educate them, take them to a school, take them to church, you're fine. But as long as you're not beating them and not violating their rights, then yeah, you're fine.
What if the kid consents? He convinces the kid to consent
Children, I
voluntarily.
don't think that children can consent. They're not able to
No,
make
but
that
yeah.
decision.
Yeah, but you don't see the problem. I'm saying, what if the child and the parent consents to prostitution of
Yeah,
that kid?
that a child can't consent to that because they're a child.
But you give the sole
You would
you give
that
the
you
sole
can't do that
responsibility of
because then
consent to the parent.
you would be violating the non-aggression principle of that child
How does that violate the
because
non-aggression?
you're
You
forcing
have
them into prostitution.
no, they agree.
They can't
Let's say they
agree.
agree,
They
but
can't agree.
it's
They're children. They can't consent. You understand this.
no, I don't. That doesn't make any sense. You're
So you
saying you
think
give
children
the
can consent to being a prostitute?
no. I'm asking you. You
No,
said you
I'm
give
saying no. I'm
you give
saying they
wait, wait.
cannot. They cannot.
You give so who makes the decisions for the kid then if they can't make decisions for themselves,
The parent
which
does.
kind of violates the
They could make
definitions of
decisions. They
self-ownership.
could make decisions for them so far as they
Yeah.
don't violate the non-aggression principle. Prostituting a child would be violating the non-aggression principle.
Where's the aggression in that case where the child consents and
A
the parent
child
consents?
cannot consent for the last
Okay,
time.
then
A
let's
child
just say
cannot
that
consent.
yeah, I'm just saying they agree to it,
They
right? They
cannot
agree to
agree
it.
to it. They are
They're not
unable
fighting it.
to.
They're not fighting it. They don't express any
Okay,
they
so you
don't they
think that
don't
children can
express any
consent to being
no,
prostitutes?
I'm just saying
You think
what
that children
happens
can
if they
consent to being prostitutes? Answer this question.
I don't me, I think you should let the market take care of it.
So
Whoever
if a
wants to stop
child
it,
wants to be a prostitute
hold on.
and they say
I
yes,
thought
that's fine.
whoever wants let me answer. I don't know. Like it I don't know what evolution rewards. So whoever wants to stop it, they have to spend their own money to stop it. If someone tries to either force him or if both parties consent in the parent-child relationship to prostitution, that's a problem for you to deal with
Wait, 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 wait,
because you
wait,
have
wait, 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 wait.
so
If a
if the
child
child
consents, stop. If a child
no, no,
consent, no,
no,
stop. Answer this
no,
question.
no, no.
If a
Let me
child
clarify. Let me
consents
clarify.
to
Let
be
me
a
clarify.
prostitute, you
Yeah.
think that's okay because the child consents?
No, I'm asking you
No, I'm
you're
saying I've
I'm
told you like
asking you.
5 times. No, and the reason why is because the child cannot consent.
So let me use a different word than consent. He doesn't express any he actually he
It doesn't
expresses a
matter.
want to do it.
It doesn't
So
matter.
no, I'm saying it's not just the kid, right? So it's not only the kid showing he wants to do it, but the parent wants to do it.
It doesn't matter.
Now what?
It doesn't matter. That can't violate that child's consent.
There's no consent being violated.
So children
here.
don't have consent?
You just said they can't consent. But I'm just
They
saying
can't say they
don't
can't make
express
their
any
decision. They can't make that decision.
yeah, you said the parent makes the decision for the kid,
Yeah,
right?
but they can't make a decision that violates their NAP.
How does that so when a prostitute wants to prostitute herself,
Yeah,
you
she's
would agree
making a
that's voluntary,
decision.
right?
A prostitute makes a decision on her own to have sex with another man.
There's no
A child
enforcement,
can't
right?
make that decision. They
Yes.
cannot consent.
You said that the parent has the sole responsibility of making decisions for the kid.
Yeah, and so long as they don't violate the NAP of that child. Prostituting
What
a
consent has he
child
violated?
that
Where,
violate
what
because
consent
children, I'm
has
gonna
the
say
parent
this one
violated?
more time to you, and if you don't get it after this, then it's kind of weird that you're
I mean,
defending
you're
this.
the one that doesn't
All
get
I'm
it.
saying is that
I
a
get what you're saying.
child cannot consent to
Yeah.
doing that. So if you make him prostitute himself, even if he says he wants to do it, you would be
He's not making
violating.
him.
You would be violating the consent of that child. Even if you,
Like so
even if he
so here's what
wants, even if
happens.
he says that he wants to, you can't do that because a child
what
can't make
happens.
their own decisions.
So like the parent doesn't care. He allows it, right? And he leaves the kid alone. He goes out on the street and prostitutes himself.
Then that
The
parent
parent
shouldn't have
sees
the
it,
guarantee. That
and
that parent should not have the guardianship over that child. Then,
you're kind of describing the state now. You're kind of imposing your opinions on the parent-child relationship in this case.
so me telling
It's
you,
it's
you
the same.
can't force your child into or allow your child to be a prostitute is me violating your non-aggression principle.
Yeah, just
How?
just like the state stopping an adult from prostituting himself.
But a
Herself.
child is not an adult. They can't consent.
Yes, but in that case, you said the parent has the sole
Yeah, but they
responsibility to make the
can't
decision.
violate the NAP of that child. Do you understand that having
Yes,
a kid,
I understand what
having a
you
kid
think you're trying to
prostitute
say.
themselves violates the NAP of that child? You understand that, right?
In order to violate consent,
Yes or
the
no?
kid has to not want to do it.
They can't say yes. They can't say yes. They can't consent.
They can't say yes, they can't say no, but he's not,
So they can't consent.
the kid wants to do it, and the parent wants the kid to do it. That's a problem, right? Then that's where
It
the
do-
state comes in, right? That's where the state. See,
Nobody is
I think
mentioning a
it's,
state. Nobody mentioned a state.
you're implying it by
All I'm
like saying,
saying, listen to me. Now, all I'm telling you is what's ethical and what's unethical. I'm not talking about a state. I'm not talking about what's legal. I'm not talking about what's illegal. All I'm saying is that a child cannot consent to being prostitute. Even if he says,
so
"Hey, mom, I want to go and prostitute
I get
myself,"
it, I get it. I
he
get what you're trying
can't
to say,
do
but
that.
how do you know you're violating the consent of an adult?
An an adult? What do you mean by that?
How do you know you're violating consent of an
They would
adult
tell you.
prostitute? Yeah. Okay, so in this case, who's going to tell me that their consent's being violated in that particular
No one's going to
hypothetical?
tell you. It's implied because the child is unable to reason.
Oh, you're imposing that will on the kid and the parent.
Yeah, because she's not able
That
to.
no one there
Children
wants
aren't
to
able to make their own decisions.
I understand that you said in that case you said the parent has that right then.
Okay, so you think?
Let's-
No, no, no,
I
no,
think
no,
let's just
no, no.
drop that.
Stop. If you
I think that's
think
a
that
problem.
if a parent is guardian
parent
over a
too.
child, and that child says, "I want to prostitute myself,"
No,
you would be
I'm
violating
talking
the
about
NAP by not allowing that child to prostitute himself.
No, I think it's a violation when you say the parent has the exclusive right to make decisions for the kid, and the kid doesn't express any dissatisfaction. He actually wants to prostitute themselves, and the parent's agreeable with that. I think under your ethic,
No, it's
it doesn't violate the
no,
non-aggression principle.
no. It does because a child cannot consent.
Yeah, they can't, but
They
they have
can't
to.
say yes.
Somebody has to. The decision maker has
Yeah, the decision would be
to
no
express
because they can't consent to that action.
dissatisfaction. Let's just drop that. I think I really.
That's fine. We can drop it. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask you a final question, which is,
Yeah.
if there was a parent and listen to me. If they had a guardianship over a child and that child wanted to
Under
prostitute
my
himself, that child wanted
Under my
to
ethic.
listen to me. A child wanted to
I was just-
Are you gonna
I was
listen?
just exploring it.
Are
I
you
was
gonna?
exploring it under anarcho-capitalism. You
No,
want me to consider
okay. I'm asking you. I'm asking you your opinion. Okay.
under my ethic.
Yes.
Under my
You have a
okay,
child,
that's what I mean.
and you're saying that it would be violating the non-aggression principle to not allow that child to prostitute himself.
Oh, I thought it was under my ethic. Under my ethic. I don't care about the non-aggression principle. I only care about evolutionary utility.
So you wouldn't care if that child prostitutes himself.
No, I don't know. Like circumstance.
What does
It depends on the
evolutionary?
context.
What does evolutionary whatever tell you about child prostitution?
I would need to like explore the topic more.
So you don't have an
kinda, like,
opinion on child prostitution?
I can kind of formulate because you have to.
Why
When
do
you
you
get
think?
rid of,
Do you think it's wrong
when
for a
you get
child
rid
to
of
be
democracy-
prostituted?
Hold on. When you get rid of democracy, you have to rethink almost everything.
Okay, I'm asking your opinion.
And I
Do you think it's
and
wrong for
I
a
don't
child to be prostituted?
in some circumstances, yeah.
Why?
Um, because it might not. So I only have one principle, and I don't. It takes a lot to kind of explain.
Okay.
I can
When you're
summarize
done
it.
rambling, I'm going to ask you the same question again. You know that, right?
I only have one principle.
Okay, so
So,
what's wrong
I
with
judge
child
all
prostitution? Tell me what's wrong with
I
child
judge all action
prostitution.
based upon that principle, and I have to analyze how a strategy affects.
Because I have an answer as to why I think child prostitution is wrong. I've explained to you why I think child prostitution is wrong.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
I
just-
want to
it's
know
just,
why you
my-
think child prostitution is wrong. Or if it is or not.
Child prostitution. It just depends how well it affects productivity of society.
So
That's one proxy
let's
of
say
my
child
ethic.
prostitution affected society, put the productivity of society up, like it went up
Yeah.
somehow, hypothetically.
Okay. If it
You wouldn't have a problem with
if
prostitution.
it increased the total utility of society, yes, it's a good. Versus not versus
Jesus, man, you don't see any issue with that?
no well you have a problem with the net benefit being positive. So
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
explaining
what? That is completely subjective. Okay, for one, the productivity
no
of individuals going up, whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing, is completely
that's not
subjective.
no that's subjective whether or not increases productivity or not whether or not GDP goes up like it's just like
Yeah,
profitability.
but you think that's better, but there are some people that don't think that's better. There are some
It
people
doesn't
who
matter.
live in, there are Amish people who decide, I don't care about any of this growth or anything. I want to live like 200 years ago. So that's
It
subjective, whether or
doesn't
not that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some people would
it
say
doesn't matter what we think.
it does
It does
matter.
it ultimately doesn't matter what we think. It matters what evolutionary selects. So
What do
like
you mean by that?
that's okay. So, yeah, so maybe you should get into that's why I talked to you about maybe I should talk to you about what my ethic is so
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
we don't run into this problem. But so I'm an evolutionary capitalist, right? So I think morals come from evolution. And when I say evolution, I'm talking about general evolution, not biological evolution. So it's a more general selection process. Um, so morality comes from that because evolution selects for certain strategies, right? It selects what's in existence in the long run, especially.
Okay, but how do you know that's a
You agree?
good or a bad thing? Like,
That's why we have a sense of good.
yeah, but that's subjective,
Sorry,
right?
my throat's dry.
You're good. Yeah, but that's like kind of subjective, right?
I would use the word relative. It's relative to the individual, but still objective.
I mean, it's not objective because we don't all
That's
agree to. I mean,
it's
like, what do you mean by
it's
objective? Like, what do you mean by that?
sorry, my throat's really dry.
No, you're
So
good.
long as I've
If you want to take a second to get some water for yourself, you're good, bro.
yeah. So evolutionary utility is objective,
Hmm.
right? So I think evolution. So morals come from evolution. So all our senses, all our intuitions are are being shaped toward evolution's goal. I think evolution has a goal. I don't want to sound too mystical, but it's trying to create the perfect evolutionary being, and it's not necessarily biological. And again, I'm talking about general evolution, so this being can be very complex. It can be like a society. It can be like it doesn't have to be physically bonded,
Hmm.
right? Um, just like a society and relation, two people. That can be an evolutionary being. Two people, two machines, several AI, an environment together with its components. That can be a being. And evolution's just trying to solve all existential problems, right? It's trying to solve the problem of existence. That's why it built us, and that's our only purpose, right? So our purpose, since we are just a means to an end, is to help create this perfect evolutionary being. And what evolution will do is it'll shape all our senses toward this goal.
Okay.
So so you can see this by seeing how our morals are at the moment or what our intuitions about morality are. It's all geared to productivity.
Hmm.
So I think like Jeremy Bentham with utilitarianism was kind of on the right track, but he didn't have the benefit of knowing what biological or general evolution was. If he did, I think he might have created a better ethic that isn't so debatable. Are you
So
aware of utilitarianism?
yeah, I have a lot of issues with utilitarianism.
Well, yeah, I think so. I also created something called. Well, I have an alternative name for my ethic called evolutionary utilitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as evolutionary capitalism. So I think the utility maximized, or what evolution wants you to maximize, is the utility of the perfect evolutionary being. Or, in other words, we are tasked with creating this perfect evolutionary being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a good proxy of morality in my ethic is to maximize productivity. So ultimately, I don't care about murder. I don't, I don't, I don't care about murder per se, I should say, right? I care about murder when it satisfies this goal. I don't care about, well, and I don't like murder when it works against this goal. So I always compare any action toward this goal, and that's what I call morality.
Okay.
How does this action affect that goal? So when you
Mm-hmm.
talk about, so
Hold on one
it takes
sec.
some deliberation when you talk about, like, I have
Mm-hmm.
to I have to kind of like erase all my my democratic intuitions, because this democratic system has imposed upon us, some moralities that are kind of brainwashed in our head, right? So, obviously I want to say, like, intuitively, because there are laws against it, that child prostitution is bad. But so what I have to do, since I'm creating my ethic, is kind of like erase all that, try to dismiss all that brainwashing, and try to like analyze it. And it would take a little while, like what conditions of child prostitution would be good for this ethic, and
Okay.
what would be bad.
Okay.
It's not a black, it's not going to be a black a
Mm-hmm.
universal statement on if child prostitution is bad or not. Some child prostitution is going to be good, some child prostitution is going to be bad, right?
Okay.
Just
Hold
same
on.
thing with
Just
murder,
one
same
sec.
thing with theft.
Stop. Okay. So the issue with, right, is that with what you're proposing is that anyone could use your ideology to justify pretty much anything if they see it to being the
No,
ultimate goal of evolution.
no, but
Also, who's to say
value's not
what?
the no,
Oh, hold on.
expected
Also,
value.
I allowed you to speak for like 5 minutes. So also the other issue with that is that how do you know what evolution wants? You know what I mean? How do you know that the decisions that you're making is better towards the goal of evolution? There's no
So
clear cut answer for that.
yeah, so there were two criticisms. That's why I wanted to like address the first one before
Hmm.
we got the second one. But since I can't remember the first one now, let me
Okay.
address the second one.
Yep.
How do we know? We really don't. But evolution tasks forces us to try to know
Hmm.
with its selection process. So I say evolution is like a punishing and rewarding God with its
Hmm.
selection process, just like God, right? If we didn't know the Ten Commandments, well, so evolution will punish a population if they're unethical by wiping them out, by letting them go extinct or relatively extinct. Like they will get dominated by the more moral population, and that's how we know. We have to piece together through science, right? We have to look at all the evidence on what evolution's selecting for.
But it isn't
But
always true,
I
right?
think, but I think I've made some progress by showing the end goal. Even though I can't describe this perfect evolutionary being, I know that's all we're doing. We're trying to create a better being at every
But you could,
instance.
and my first criticism was that you could pretty much justify anything if you feel like it furthers the goal of evolution.
But what evolution selects for is true value, and that is not up to anyone's
So, for
mind.
instance, let's say there's a group of people whom we feel like genetically inferior, and if they continue to breed, they will bring down the evolution of those who are genetically superior.
How does the existence of an inferior population uh,
Th- Well,
bring
th-
down
well,
the population?
that's the exact issue that I have with your premise, because any person can basically make an argument that this group of people are a hamper to the genetic code that we need to push our evolutionary whatever on forward to push up the boundaries of evolutionary things. So, a lot of eugenics was basically pushed this way. A lot of racial segregation was done using a lot of these arguments.
Yeah,
A lot of bad things
yeah. I
were
think
done in the furtherance of evolutionary, things.
yeah, but that was kind of done under like state power, almost a lot of it.
Hmm.
And when it's not a profit maximizing incentive, I think that perverts action, just like with government.
Okay,
So
but the thing
they
is,
tend
I don't
not to
think
act
it's
efficiently.
okay to profit off of violating another person's right.
I think it is. I think well, not just with child prostitution, but for instance, there's no reason for a market to respect Lockean property,
Why
right?
not?
So I think homesteading and rightful transfer are ethics of democracy. This came from the grandfather of democracy, right? Not from market ethics.
What is democracy?
Mark um, Democracy is when there's some type of voting system where decision making is somehow distributed through the people in some way.
How is that in any way the same to private property ownership?
Uh, That's modern. Modern democracy. Well, modern liberal democracy adopts Lockean property ethic, right?
Okay.
We might be getting into taxation and stuff, but
The thing
John
is,
Locke
the government
was the
doesn't have the
grandfather of
right.
democracy.
Yes, no government has the right to take any other person's stuff without their permission. It doesn't
I don't
matter.
believe it. I don't believe in natural rights. I think that's
Okay, so then how
again
about this?
that's
Let's say you're on an island and you are on an island by yourself and you cut down a stick. Is that your stick?
as long as I can exclude others from it. Yeah. So I use the exclusion
Do you
principle.
have the right to that stick?
Um, I don't believe in natural rights, but okay. So I do
So
believe
you
in
don't
one
have the
type
right
of
to
right.
that stick.
I do believe in one type of right, but it's
Do
not
you
going to
have the
be
right to that stick? Yes or
na-
no?
it's, I don't believe in libertarian natural rights. No.
I understand you don't believe it, dude, but I'm asking you a question. Do you believe that you
Yeah, I
have the
said
right?
I don't believe in
So
libertarian
any
natural
yeah,
rights.
so
No.
if you don't if you cut down a stick, that stick is not yours. And who does it belong to?
No, there's difference. There's a difference between owning something and having a right to own something.
Okay, so then who has the right to own that thing?
I can create a different definition of right. Right.
That's
Again,
not an
and
answer to my question, man. You're
it
avoiding my
has to do with
question.
morality.
No offense, but you're
Rights have
avoiding
to
my
do.
question.
I'm not.
Yes,
Rights
you
have to do
are.
with morality. So under my ethic, rights have a different meaning.
Okay,
I
so
can
who has the right to the stick?
whoever can best utilize it for society. That's who has the right to
Okay,
that
who
stick. Under
determines
my
that?
ethic,
Who determines that?
evolution determines that. And if
How do
you
you know
fight
what
it,
evolution
it works up
determines? How
against
do you
you.
know what evolution determines?
You have to look at how you have to look at the evidence throughout history of its selection process, and you can use. So that's why it gave us reason, and it gave us reason and
How do you
intuition
know?
of
Oh, listen.
morality.
How do you know what evolution is selected for or wants in the
It's
future?
It's all because I've defined the goal already. The goal is to create the
How do
being
you know
that is
that's how do
perfect.
you know that's
Wait,
evolution's
hold
goal?
on. The goal is to create the being that uh,
I know. How do you know
is
that's
perfect
evolution's goal?
the goal is to create a being that is perfect at existing, right?
Yeah, how
So
do you know
we
that's
can look at
evolution's goal?
the mechanics of the universe and see how things exist,
Yeah, how do you know
right?
that's evolution's goal?
It's you can see it.
I don't see it.
You can see improvement. So you can see the direction of evolution, right?
Okay, but how do
You
you know
see
that it's its goal? That's the end goal.
you can see everything getting better. Like you can see technology getting more efficient,
Okay,
right?
but how
You
do you
can
know again,
this
how do
is
you know
all
that that's
this is
evolution's
all
goal?
going. You're not letting me answer.
Cuz you're not answering.
I am answering. It doesn't have to be in a one sentence, does it?
For it to make sense. Yeah.
So evolution tasks us with producing,
How do you know
right?
that?
That's and we can glean some of this from our intuition because we can
Could your
use
intuition be
first we
wrong?
can use intuition and then everyone's into of course because it's
Okay, so
in a
then
state of
so then you don't
development.
really know.
Can you can I finish a sentence?
Cuz
Can I finish a
Go
sentence?
ahead.
But all our intuitions are in a state of are in an imperfect state of development, right?
So
That's what
then you don't really know.
no, but it doesn't care. Evolution doesn't care. It will reward or punish you whether you know it or not, right?
So then you don't know.
That's what keeps us in line, and that's what
So then how can you
molds
make
our intuition further.
so how can you make
Through the selection process, our intuition will get better. It will start to converge. If my ethic is if my predictions are correct, our intuitions should converge to my ethic.
Okay, so if you don't know evolution's goal, then how do you know that you're furthering evolution's goal?
I do know the general form of evolution's goal. It's to
Yeah, so what is
solve
it?
all existential
Yeah,
problems.
how do you know that?
That's
Evolution told you?
well, no, that's from intuition and evidence.
That's okay, so your intuitions could be wrong,
You
right?
can see sign. You can just look at the definition of the theory of biological evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's already that existence, that improvement toward existence in an environment's already in the definition of that.
Okay.
So general evolution just extends that definition.
Evolution isn't a living being, is
It
it?
removes what's that?
Evolution
It's
isn't
a
like a living
mechanism.
being. Okay, so then you can't really know what it wants, right? Because it can't
You
like
can
want
know.
anything.
You can know because it's forcing you to know through our intuitions. It's building your intuitions to align itself with its goal. That's what moral. That's why it gave us morality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there are different people who have different morals than us. So was evolution wrong in telling one person one morality and right in the other person?
Well, they're all in a state of development, and it's in the process of eliminating the bad moralities.
So we don't really know what evolution truly wants, and even if we were to say what evolution wants, which maybe hold on, even if we were to say that evolution's want is to make the perfect being, we couldn't possibly know what we need to do in order to make that happen, right? Like,
no, I don't think that's a true statement.
So what do we need to do to make that happen?
We can increase productivity. So
what if increasing productivity doesn't do that?
Then evolution will select against us and force us to realize our error.
So then that proves that you don't know. You don't really know. You don't really know then.
We do know some things. We don't. It's not that I know nothing about it.
I'm not saying you know nothing about it. I'm just saying you don't know for a fact that increasing productivity is what evolution wants. You don't know that.
No. Well, I have a lot of evidence to believe it. I don't know it for certain, of course.
Well, I mean, of course you can't know it because evolution isn't a thing. It can't tell you what it wants.
I have a high degree of certainty. We have a strong intuition to maximize profit. The ethic of utilitarianism didn't come out of nowhere. And it's in the state of development. And I think I've made a refinement on utilitarianism. Classic utilitarianism is kind of absurd, but Bentham didn't have.
How do you know that the methods in which you're taking are the way to maximally increase productivity as well? We can't really know that until we make the decisions, right?
We're trying to produce a being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we increase technology, that's a high likelihood that increases our chances of creating this being.
Yeah, but we can't know that for certain.
That's what technology does. It allows us to produce.
Yes, I know.
If we're trying to produce something for evolution,
I understand that, but the problem is that when you don't really know whether or not that's going to be the best outcome until after you make the decision. It could be another outcome.
I have a lot of evidence to believe so, though.
But that you don't know.
I have a lot of evidence.
But you don't know.
We don't know anything. Why do we do anything?
Because
why do we
have evidence? I think you should be allowed to do whatever you want, so far as you're not.
Yes. How do you prepare for tomorrow? Do you know tomorrow's gonna come?
Does me preparing tomorrow entail me violating other people's rights?
What?
You're justifying violating people's non-aggression principle based off of a utility function. But you don't really know whether or not that utility is going to be better until you make the decision.
Neither does the actor himself.
Exactly. So why make? Yeah, exactly. So why should we base our decision off of something that we
based upon Bayesian probability? Because our minds are imperfect. Because we have the imperfect intellect and imperfect data.
Okay, so then why make our decisions based off of imperfect data?
What's that?
Why restrict people?
We're not perfect. We're not perfect. We're not omniscient.
Yeah, but the thing is, if making a decision, if making a decision entails you violating another person's right, you don't really know whether or not violating that person's right is going to be a better outcome or a worse outcome until after you do it, right?
No, the consequences extend into infinity.
Okay,
You
so that's
even after
that's why
even
we
after
hold a
that,
bit of a
you may never know.
deontological view, which is essentially we believe in the non-aggression principle.
Oh,
You're
that's
allowed to do so much as you want, so far as you don't violate another person's
percent.
right.
That's too simple, and evolution won't stand for it. So
Well,
I think evolution will make deontology extinct. It's too blunt. It's too simple.
what
It
makes you
needs
think what do you want to do that you can't do without violating another person's rights?
say that again.
What do you
Just thinking.
want to do that you can't do without violating another person's right?
Oh, so I think so. In general, with property, I think property should go to the person who can best utilize it,
Who determines that?
right? The market, right? So the difference
How?
between the market and government is that it's using its own money, so that so that its
What do you mean your
incentives
own money?
aren't
You mean
perverted.
so? What do you mean your own money? If you're
With
using your own
government,
money, that
you
means you
would
own that money, right?
no. Well, you're using your own resources that you control. So
Yeah. How do you get resources that are
in
yours?
actually in my ethic, I didn't realize how far I'd have to go in my ethic, but in my ethic I think ultimately money will be reputation.
Okay. So how do you know? How do you know that someone's money is theirs?
In my ethic it's going to be reputation, so it's going to be linked to your name.
So if you have a high reputation, you get to keep your money. But if you have a low reputation, someone could
There's
take your
no
money.
theft. You can't steal reputation.
I'm talking about physical money.
Oh, you're
So
talking
when is it
about an
okay? When is it okay to take money from another person?
again, I only have one principle: when it serves that goal, when it
Yeah,
serves
but
that.
how do you know that it's serving that
I
goal?
don't. We all work.
You
All
don't.
actors work with uncertainty.
So you're
All, act,
violating
all
people's.
actors
Hold on.
act
Then you're
with uncertainty.
violating people's rights based off of a goal that you don't even know about, or even how to for a goal that you don't even know, and you don't even know how to get there, or
So
whether or
what?
not what you're doing to get there is going to work.
So what? So
That's
what? I could be right. I could be wrong. But evolution will shape
yeah,
all
but
our
that's
behavior.
anti-evolution because
Makes
if somebody, let's say one group of people decides that this group of people is inferior to another group of people, they don't really know whether or not wiping that group of people out is going to have a negative effect on in evolution until after they
yeah,
make
they
that
do.
decision.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
then, so if they
you,
have
you,
a goal in mind of furthering evolution and they feel in their mind, they feel like I have a good amount of evidence that shows that wiping out this group of people is going to make us better off in the future, you would say that they would be justified in doing that.
it's just like a business, right?
So,
It's just like a
but then you
business. So
could
if
you could
so,
justify pretty much anything. You could justify genocide, child rape, murder, like literally any wrongdoing with your ideology.
yeah, given the correct circumstance, yes, of course, because you can't because ANCAPs can't deal with like extreme utilitarian hypotheticals, right?
Okay, give me one.
So I can I'm sure you know the trolley car scenario, right? Where
Yeah,
you justify murder, right?
yeah. I don't think it's okay to pull the train and kill anyone.
Okay, so the usual starting point is like 1 for 5, right?
Yeah.
Uh, s- uh would you kill one guy
No, I
to
would not
save
kill
five?
the one. I would
What
not
about
kill the
what
five.
about
One guy.
what about one person to save the rest of the world?
Nope. Because then I would be violating the non-aggression principle. Okay, well then let me flip it around on you.
Oh, no, no,
Okay,
no,
no, no,
hold
no.
on.
Let me
No,
flip it
wait,
around
wait,
on
no,
you. You
no,
asked
no,
me a
no, no,
hypothetical.
no, no. The hypothetical is not complete. Okay, so you
Okay.
said you wouldn't, right?
Hmm.
What would evolution do to you after you're the sole survivor, you're the sole human on Earth after everyone's dead? After this
The
hypothetical, what would
non-aggression,
evolution do to you?
yeah, the non-aggression principle doesn't tell whether or not
You can't reproduce, right?
how to handle that situation. All it says is whether or not it's right or wrong to kill somebody, and I think it's wrong to kill someone, so therefore I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, but if the entire human population were to follow this ethic, and this hypothetical would occur, this population would be wiped out, right?
Yeah, but I could use
And
this.
that's
I could use the same thing. I could do the same thing on you. So let's say there is 5 people, and they have
no,
five
but
sep. Listen, listen,
you would
listen, listen,
first
listen, listen, listen,
first
listen,
before
listen,
you no
listen.
you can't change the hypothetical till it's done. You would agree that utilitarianism works in this case over
No,
anarcho cap
no. Well, the thing
under
is, in the end of the day,
libertarianism, right?
whether or not you go one way or another is a preference. In the end of the day, it's a subjective preference. Whether you think
No,
it's
the
okay, so
consequences are objective. The
they're not
consequences
objective.
which you're trying to predict are objective.
One way or another, you're
Consequences are
killing people.
objective. So whether or not the population gets wiped out or not is objective.
Well, that may be objective, but the decision, whether or not the decision that you make is right or wrong, is subjective.
No, that's just because you're subjectively defining what's right or wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but so this
I
ethic
think
would
that
go.
morality is subjective. Now, can I give you the hypothetical before you run away from
Yeah,
it
yeah,
again?
sure, go ahead.
Okay, so let's
No,
say
you're
there's.
running away from this. But,
I did. I answered your hypothetical. You want me to answer it again?
no, but yeah, no, but you agree this population would be punished by evolution, right?
It would be punished by the train.
In that hypothetical, what's that?
It would be punished by the train that's running them over.
No, after you.
I mean, yeah, I would
After
probably. Yeah, I would die after that because then I would have nobody to reproduce with.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not.
You see how
But I accept
evolution
that.
shaped decision making. It would eradicate this type of strategy.
Yes, okay, but then let's say you're in a situation where you have 5 children who are terminally ill, and they can get 5 separate organs from one guy, and to save all 5 of those children's lives. Do you forcibly hold that guy down, rip out his organs, and give it to those children without his consent to save those children?
Not knowing anything else about each of the individuals, right? Let's just say all things equal.
All things equal.
Let's just make them. Oh, I don't want to have to ask for details. It'll take time. Let's just say they're all like unknown people. Like I don't even know their children, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's
I don't
5
know ages, I
children.
don't know anything.
There's 5 children. They have a
Children.
illness that's gonna kill them, and if they don't get this
Make it harder for
this specific body part put into them, that they will die, and they could get it. They could all 5 of those children could get that body part
Yeah,
from that one guy. And would it be moral for you to kill that person, take out his body parts, and put it into those children?
Yes.
Yes.
Not knowing anything else. Everything, all else equal. Like okay, they're children. The guys. I think you said the guy was an adult. I don't know anything about anything else. Like this guy could be.
So you
very
could rip out
productive
his organs.
individual.
You could force him down, take out his organs unconsensually, and give it to those children.
The answer should not. So the answer should not change from 5 kids to all of humanity, right?
Okay. So that means
So if
that
I'm
yes,
not-
you are allowed to steal his organs.
Yes.
Okay. So let's
Even
say
if it's 2.
yeah. Okay. So let's say there's a utopia, right? In which there, you know what a utopia is, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
perfect
utopia
society.
is like a perfect society. There's no hunger, no war, no nothing, and the only way to keep up this utopia is if you do some weird satanic ritual where you rape a child perpetually in a basement. And if you don't rape this child, then it will turn into normalcy. Everything will go back to war and killing and murdering. Are you morally obligated to rape that child?
Under my ethic, well, I'm not. My goal is not to create a utopia, because a utopia kind of violates, like.
I mean, a utopia would be the
Natural
perfect evolution because then all the people there won't die, have no worries, no issues. Like they're automatically the perfect beings. So that is a furtherance of evolution.
Yeah.
So if you
So,
could get
yeah.
the perfect, yeah. So you would be okay with
Under
perpetually.
under your hypothetical, you can create whatever obscene crime.
Yeah. So
can
you
think.
would say that you are
Yeah.
morally obligated to rape that child.
Yes,
You're
evolution will select this strategy.
So you're morally obligated to rape that child.
I don't like always putting things in terms of child rape, but yes.
Okay. So this fucked up. You don't see the problem with that?
The only reason why you're saying that is because you have.
I would never. You would never give me a situation where I would say it's okay to rape a child.
I'd like to see you put your money where your mouth is. Like
No, I would never give.
Unfortunately-
Even if there's a utopia, I would not say it's okay to rape that child.
Like how many? Because you're not understanding the opportunity costs here by removing yourself from utopia,
So
right?
you're saying
There's gonna be more death.
somebody must rape that child.
Yeah,
Oh my god. Jesus Christ,
it's
man.
utilitarianism. It's called being logically consistent.
All right, man. I mean, at least you're logically consistent, even though I think it's a little bit fucked. But I mean, it is what it is.
You would agree.
But
You
okay.
would agree that evolution selects for this strategy, right? Let's just
I
put
mean,
it
I
in
don't
terms of
know that. I don't know that for certain. I don't know what evolution selects for.
so like let's say all things equal, like
I mean,
five
but
individuals survive.
let's say it was. Let's say it was. I still wouldn't want that.
Like let's remove the label of the crime. Like let's just look at the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
5 people surviving versus 1 person surviving. What population would survive the evolutionary selection process? Which strategy would survive the selection process?
I
The
mean,
strategy that saves
whatever
5 people.
evolution says, I don't care as long as I don't think it's right to violate people's rights.
Evolution will force you to care. It'll force your kids to care. It'll force all your descendants to care even more. And that's what I claim. You can't get around it. And if you try to build a market ethic, and so what? Here's my
I don't think
problem
you
with
really realize what you
anarcho-capitalism.
just agreed to, bro.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't think you do. But here's what the market really is. The market will be an evolutionary beast. It will be just an evolutionary machine. Evolution does not care about humans. You have to understand we are just a means to an end, right? Now, democracy has brainwashed into some crimes, right? Some
Okay,
things
so let
aren't
me ask you a
really.
question. All right. If you care so much about evolution, what do we do about a shrinking population?
For one thing, man,
Do
maybe
we
well,
force people to fuck each other?
I think there's some circumstances where that might be moral.
So you think it's
I mean, you can just do you can just do simple like
we need to forcibly get people to fuck each other
no,
so that we
it's not gonna be like it's not gonna be the general case. I'm just saying there can be circumstances where that should happen. I'm not saying
You
it's
could,
gonna be
bro.
the case
You
all the
could.
time.
My issue with this whole
You're
ideology
doing
is you could
inductive
justify
process.
any immoral act, pretty much any immoral act.
No,
You-
it's the consequences that follow that justify it.
but,
I don't care. Utilitarians do not consequentialists do not care about the
but you
means.
understand that you could pretty much justify any negative, bad, genocide, murder, rape,
As
killing,
long as
child
it
prostitution.
as,
You could justify
as
all of that stuff if it makes evolution better. You do
in
realize that.
certain cases, yes, if it creates the consequences that are desirable.
Sheesh. All right, I think we've exhausted
I
that
think
topic.
Yeah. But I think you guys are the monsters by not doing that. Like for instance, by you saving that one guy versus the 5, I think you are the
Yeah,
monster
but
in
how
that case.
often? Listen to me. But how often does a hypothetical situation like that ever happen?
They do
Yeah,
happen.
but like how, in comparison to say,
For
like
instance,
you know,
I think like for instance, like so you have the luxury of growing up in a first world society with democratic government protecting your constitutional rights.
mhm.
Have you ever been in war or famine?
No, I've
Have
never been in a war or a famine.
people people have really in real circumstance in real life case scenarios had to eat their children in famines. Is that moral? They've had to face extreme circumstances. We have the luxury of being in first world doing armchair analysis, right? You have to think nature is cruel and evolution does not care about humanity or anything else short of the perfect evolutionary being.
But what if we could
Right?
prove that productivity is completely tied to individual freedom? Like more individual freedom generally means more productivity. If you look at countries,
I would accept if you could make that argument.
yeah, but it's true. Like if you look
I
at,
would no,
yes,
hold on.
mhm, go ahead,
Then
go
I
ahead.
then
Sorry.
I would have to concede that libertarianism is correct. But I know you cannot.
Yeah, you can.
Cannot.
Yeah, you
No,
can.
you can't. No. You're so here's why where I think ANCAPs make the error. They see freedom from government as freedom from and they conflate that with freedom from all aggression. I don't think liberty is is a useful social construct. I don't
I
think
mean, if
it's
it,
a
it
very.
could, if
I think
it,
it's
it
actually a
should be to
detrimental
you,
idea.
it should be to you because when you look at countries that allow for more individual freedoms, more open markets, more things like that, you see more higher populations, you see more productivity, you see more of the things in which you think that evolution is striving
That
towards.
data, again, that data has to do with freedom from democratic decision making, not
But that's
aggression,
what
not
we're, but that's
not
what
market
we
aggression.
support. We don't want democratic rule over individuals. We want
Neither
private
do
property
I.
ownerships. We want individual property ownership. And when you
So,
have that, you have higher productivity. Capitalism is the thing
oh,
that has created the highest productivity for mankind.
let me show you. Let me show you where we differ. Like, so, for instance, homesteading is irrational, right?
Hmm.
I think libertarian property ethics are commit commit sunk cost fallacy. You should never look back in the past on who should own a piece of capital in the present or future, right?
Hmm.
So in this case, when you respect someone just for the fact that they homesteaded land, makes your market more inefficient,
Oh no, I
right?
completely disagree. When you look at countries that do that very thing, and what you're saying, like going to people and stealing their stuff and taking their things and not respecting private property rights, you can't really have a
No,
market because a
no,
market
you don't have
relies
data.
on private property rights.
No, you don't. No, you don't have. So for one, private property rights are artificially subsidized by democratic government, right? So
What?
every
Listen
time
to
you
me.
look at
I'm not. I don't
every time you
support
look at
democratic governments.
every time you look at these freedom
Hmm.
indices or something, right? They incorporate it's the fact that they incorporate how government protects property rights. They do incorporate that statistic in there.
Yes,
It's part
but
of that. It's part of that thing.
but the thing is, the respect for property rights itself is what makes people more prosperous. If you don't respect other
No, it
people's
doesn't.
yes, it does because if you okay, so if you could go, if anybody,
You'd agree with this,
what's
right?
gonna incentivize you to start a
Oh no,
market?
hold
If
on.
any, listen,
I think
what's
even
gonna incentivize you to start a market if anyone could just steal from you at
I'm
any
gonna lose my
point?
train of thought. You would agree with this though, right?
Hmm.
What maximizes productivity is to allocate capital to those who are most efficient with it, right?
Yeah,
You can't
capitalism is
disagree
the
with that.
best way to do that, and private property
No, it
ownership is the
doesn't
best way to do
because
that.
it's an inefficient starting point of homesteading and even and even
It's not
consensual
inefficient.
property transfer.
It's not inefficient because
Homesteading?
homestead is not
Well,
inefficient because if you want to get the thing in which the other person is homesteaded, you have to trade them with for something that you have
yeah,
homesteaded. Yeah, so
and so
that
they can
creates an
irrational.
economy.
No. So it does. They do. So the Lockean property ethic does kind of lead to the same kind of. It does kind of. It will eventually allocate. Well, I'd like to think that even your property ethic will allocate capital eventually to those who best use it, but it takes longer time,
So
right?
what system do
So
you think
for
that we
instance,
could put in place to
so,
make it go
hold
faster?
on, I'm not done yet, man. Dang.
Okay?
So for instance, homesteading, right? When someone in this first come first served property ethic, which is irrational. Why would a society respect this when they're the least when they're not necessarily the most efficient with that property? They can transfer to the highest bidder, right? But that's not necessarily the case, and that's where the inefficiency comes
Well,
from.
listen to me. You don't have a right to take something from somebody simply because you think that it could
I
be
don't
better
care
used
about
something else.
rights.
I know, but I'm
I
telling you
don't think
that
that,
even if you allow people to take things from other people based on whether or not they think it's better, well, they're not the objective person to decide whether or not something is
neither is
better
the
used.
owner.
Yes, but the thing is, they have the right over that thing, and if
No,
somebody else
but I
takes it,
don't
they would be
believe.
violating that person's consent. And if you
You're just
want to,
declaring that right.
yeah,
I don't
well,
believe in that right.
I believe in that right because it's in the end of the day, if you don't have that right, well, then anybody could take anything from anyone, and then you won't have a market.
That's no, no.
How do you
They
have a
can
market if
only take.
anyone could take anything from
Hold
anyone?
on. They can only take things when it increases productivity. It's not take
How do you know
anytime they
that?
want.
Who's to decide that? How do you know that
The
taking something
market,
is going to give
just
you
like
more
anything else.
productivity?
The
You don't
market,
know that until you
the
after
market
you make the
uncertainty,
decision.
and ultimately the evolutionary selection forces
Okay, so let's say you steal
reward and
something.
punish us for our actions.
Yeah, so let's say you steal something from somebody and you find out that taking it actually created lower productivity. Do you give it back afterwards?
No, that's well, unless it's a sunk cost. I don't look at, so if you're a rational actor, you don't look at the past at all. You just look at, okay, so at this point, who's the
Yeah,
most
but
efficient
there's
with this
no
capital?
objective way to know whether or not taking this thing from this person is going to
Yeah, so
automatically
what?
increase productivity, right?
Well, we all work with a certain
So
amount of
you
uncertainty,
think
and
people at the
evolution
top should
understands for
arbitrarily
that.
choose whether or not this thing is
No,
more important to this person, so I should be able to take
I
it from
said the
this person and
market.
give it
I
to
said
this
the market
person?
makes the decision.
The
So
mark.
if you wanna commit an act of an aggression, if you want to go to war with Gaza, you have to spend your own money, and that's what makes it non-perverted.
How do you get money?
Instead, with democracy, we're spending a taxpayer pool of money, or
Yeah, I understand that,
a
but how do
borrowed
you
pool
get
of money,
money? How do
and
you? How
that's
does
what
your money
perverts
become
the incentive
yours?
of going to war, right?
Yeah,
But
but
war can be profitable,
how does your
just
money
like
become yours? Like, how do you? How does your money? Like, what does that mean? Like, what is your money?
well, money. Well, I think money is ultimately reputation. Reputation is
What makes money
uh,
yours?
what what uh, uh, what makes money, the fact that I've done good for this perfect evolution. I've done good for the productivity of society.
Who defines that?
So the market.
The market
So
tells
when
you whether or not you've done a good or a
yes,
bad.
I think through reputation. So
How do you
I
get more
think there
money from? How do you go from having $0 to $100? What do you need to do?
you have to create utility for society,
Okay.
and society determines that.
How?
Just it's
Answer
just
the
an extension
how.
of money. Right? It's just an
How do
I'm
they
trying.
determine? Yeah, how do they
I'm trying to.
determine?
It's just an extension of money.
Yeah, but how do they determine that what you're doing is worthwhile?
You well, with conventional money, you can see this by, well, it's not necessarily a translation, but it's a good yeah, okay, so you can look at your profit, right? Profit would indicate this. This is
Mhm.
what I
In order for
so
you to
I mean,
have profit, you would have to have property rights, right?
no, that's a fallacy.
Okay, so then how do you own? How do you know that something is yours if you don't have property rights?
Because society allows you to keep it.
So if
Everyone
society, yeah, yeah, so
in other
society
words,
doesn't deem something.
everyone else is excluded from it
So if
by
society
choice
thinks
or
that something is not yours, they could just take it from you without your permission.
yes.
So
I mean, well, if
society
they're
is really the
sufficiently
one. So in the end of the day,
if they're
society
sufficiently
is
strong enough.
yeah. So society is really the one that chooses whether or not you have a property right in anything.
If they're sufficiently strong enough, an individual
So it is all based on
capable.
society, basically. It isn't really based on evolution.
No, it's evolution, because evolution is for selects for these societies. Evolution is for
So
selects for
society
everything.
is the word of is what the evolution says. Like however society chooses is what evolution deems.
No, how it punishes society is what evolution deems. How it punishes or rewards a society is what evolution is.
So if
What true value is.
Mhm. So if society believes that your body is a property of another person's, they have the right to take your body without uh, your permission.
Man, sorry. Did you say right in there? If you said right, I have a problem with that.
Somebody,
Should they?
You have ownership of your own body? Yes or no?
Right now, yes,
Do
because
you
government
okay? Do you
protects
have a
my
property right in your
constitutional right.
body?
Yes, it's given to me by currently it's given to me by my constitutional rights and protection by this United States democracy.
So you're meaning to tell me if you didn't live in the United States, you were on an island, you wouldn't own yourself because there's no constitution there?
I think I would own myself because there's no one else trying to take it from me
So
at that
let's say
point.
you're on an island and somebody was trying to take your body from you, you would no longer own it because someone else is trying to take it from you?
If they take it from me, then it's theirs.
So if
And if they can
so
exclude others,
so it's basically might makes right. If anyone could take something from you,
no,
that makes it theirs.
that's a jump. So what's right is what's sustainable, I say. So let's say you might have the might to spend $1 million to or $10 million just to take a trip to California or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not sustainable, right? Evolution will punish you because that action, let's just say that action doesn't produce the income that that pays that
Yeah, but
generates a profit
let's
from
say
that
me
action.
murdering people is sustainable.
That's what makes
Does that make it okay?
not only sustainable, but, it has to be a maximization of a certain type of profit, evolutionary
Let's
profit.
say me murdering people and taking out their organs and selling it on the black market was making me like a lot of money, and it was
Oh,
increasing my productivity by like a large amount. You would say that that's okay because we're increasing productivity.
it has to increase all productivity, not just
So
yours. So
so forcing people down, stealing their organs from them, as long as I can prove that there's higher productivity in doing that, you would be okay with that?
in the world, yes. Well, versus any other option. If there's no other, like if there's a non-aggression
Jesus.
option that increases, if there's a non-aggressive option that increases, if there's another, I'll just even remove non-aggression. If there's another option that increases productivity better, then I'd have to go with that. I don't care about the means.
But let's
I
say
don't.
if
I
I could prove
absolutely
to
don't.
you, let's say I could prove to you, like in a hypothetical world,
I
that like
told you I
stealing
don't care
people's
about the means.
organs,
I
stealing
told you
people's.
I don't care about the means.
Okay. Okay.
I absolutely do not care about the means. I just care about the consequences.
Okay.
I do not. I absolutely
Honestly, I
do.
don't think we have much else to really talk about, bro. It's really fucked up, man. Holy
No,
fuck.
it's not. It's not because my ethic kind of looks like yours in normal
No, it
circumstances.
does not. Your ethic is
It's just.
nowhere near my ethic. I would
It's just an.
never justify taking someone's organs, child prostitution, none of the things that you said that you justified today. I would never justify those things.
Yeah, I understand that, but there. It's just in certain extreme circumstances only when I do justify those things. That's
All
where
right. You got any last words? Last words before we end this?
yeah. Wait, hold on. Let me see. Not like I had some notes where I had problems with.
Oh, and if you want to have another debate, just let me know.
But yeah, like let's see. You just touched on subjective value, but you would agree that consequences are objective, right?
What do you mean by
In
that?
terms of this. So back to the subjective theory of value.
Mm-hmm.
Consequences are objective. They're not really dependent upon the mind, especially of the actor. Like
I'm not really
like
sure what you mean by that. Like, is like
okay,
object.
let's go back to the hypothetical of the
Mm-hmm.
apple, right? You're trying to eat an apple. You're expecting nutrition and satisfaction of hunger,
Mm-hmm.
but it turns out to be a poisonous apple and you die.
Yeah.
What would you say the value of eating that apple was?
It was. I mean, it depends on whether or not
Just
that person wants that to happen to them. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
can't.
no. Remember your goal was just to satisfy. You're not
Oh well,
committing
then if your
suicide.
goal was to satisfy yourself and then you died, then I would say then, that person didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah, and you're measuring that without asking the actor, right? Which makes it objective.
Well, you've given me the prerequisites to understanding whether or not it's objective. I couldn't know that without asking the person.
No, but I mean, the person. So what's being done
Like,
before
there's
an
no
action?
objective way for me to know whether or not he actually enjoyed that without me asking him. And even if he did tell me, there's no possible way for me to know whether or not he's telling the truth. All I could do is go off of people's actions.
No, if he were to tell well, if he were to tell you his goal before he used to eat the apple, I mean,
Well, I mean, I would go based
how
off of that,
how
but I
well
wouldn't say.
you
I mean, he could be lying to me, right?
yeah, no, just so what I'm just saying is that value lies in the consequences, and if the consequences are what really determine value, that is what makes value objective.
Yeah, but
And you
whether or
can
not a
determine this because of
consequence is good
you
or
can determine
bad.
this because it's the mechanics of the universe, right? It's
Mhm.
dependent upon both the context of the situation and the inherent properties of that apple, whether it contains poison or not.
But whether or not that action is good or a good consequence or a bad consequence depends on you.
Not on your mind though.
It's your
So
opinion. It's based off your opinion.
no, it's not. That's your expectation of what will happen.
The no, it really just depends on your opinion.
So in decision theory, there's something called expected value or subjective expected utility. That's just your perception of what will happen or your prediction of what will happen. So anytime before you take an action, you're predicting the consequences of that action,
Hmm.
and that I'll give you is at
Yeah, but you
least
could be
partially
wrong about
subjective.
that.
Yes, and that's what makes it
So then you don't
objective.
really know. Because
Yeah, that's what uncertainty is.
yeah, but the thing is,
That's what
whether or
makes it an
not that thing
expectation.
is that consequence is going to be good or bad depends on you.
No,
Because
you
me
just
and you
said you
could
don't know.
hold on, but me and you could disagree on whether or not eating an apple and having poison in it is a good or a bad thing, right?
No, oh, so if we both know your goal, like either one of us could be right, even if it's you eating the apple. Like let's say
It
you
depends
show
on
me the
whether or
apple.
not you think that eating that apple is poison. Eating a poison apple is a good thing or a bad thing. I could disagree with that.
No,
That's what makes it
you could
subjective.
just. But ultimately, again, so when it comes to the goal setting, I'm talking about after the goal is set. But in terms of goal setting, I refer back to evolution.
I need my
It
vape
forces you to have goals.
over there. Uh, yeah, I just disagree. I think that in the end of the day, whether or not a consequence is a good or a bad consequence really just depends on you. It's an opinion.
No,
Good or
so
bad is a subjective
even
thing.
no, even when you set the goal, like how well. So let me put it another way: how well a means satisfies a goal is objective, right?
No,
So the goal is set.
no.
How well your strategy accomplishes that goal is not subjective. Like let me show you an extreme example, a real life
Don't worry
example.
about it.
Do you remember the Titan sub? Do you
Are you
remember the
talking about
Titan
that
sub
submarine that
exploded?
collapsed in on itself?
Yeah. You remember that? So those we probably it's a probably it's like it's probably high certainty that those people just wanted a tour of the Titanic. That was their goal. They wanted enjoyment,
Yeah,
right?
that would have been their goal, right? But whether or not the consequence of what happened is a good or a bad thing depends on me and you. Like I could
Oh,
consider that to be
well,
a good thing, and you could consider
yes,
that to be a bad thing.
I can just temporarily concede that the goal setting is subjective, right?
Hmm.
At the before they took the sub tour, they thought the tour would increase their enjoyment and their
Hmm.
happiness, right? So let's just take that as a given. That's what they thought. Now, the value of that goal, the values in the utility.
Hmm.
Do you realize? You agree that values utility, right?
Like how well you
Or
can
disagree?
use the thing, yeah, or
So
whether or not the thing
you
is
agree.
valuable to you, yeah.
So the benefit
Hmm.
of a good, right?
Hmm.
So they were wrong, and it was not their mind did not determine how well that sub tour increased their happiness. Right?
Well,
They're
no,
totally wrong.
I mean,
What's
how do
that?
you know that? Well, the thing is, right? They could have said that their goal was to go and have a good time, right? But if the thing crap, like they don't really know whether or not making that decision is going to end in a good or bad thing. And if it,
Yeah, that's what makes it objective. That's why it's not mind dependent.
yeah, but
That
whether or not,
outcome.
but you do agree that whether or not that outcome is good or bad is like it depends on me and you, like opinion.
No, then again, I go back to my ethic and what's good is how it increases as a proxy, how
Yeah,
it
I
increases
just don't agree with
productivity.
that. I don't see that as being an objective way of saying that something is good or bad.
Evolution will be the final arbiter of who's right or wrong.
No, I just completely disagree. I don't think that it is objective. I don't think that evolution is the objective sayer. And even if it was, I don't think there's any way to know what
Who gave
object.
us morality?
Nobody gave us
You,
morality.
you
We gave ourselves
you don't
morality.
think evolution selects for morality and
No.
it shaped our morality at this
I
point?
mean, it
Yeah,
it helped us, but it isn't the thing that makes morals.
it helped us.
Like it
What
it
is it
moved.
helping toward?
Well, evolution is just sort of us well evolving. You know what I'm saying? It had a hand to
Evolving
play
toward
in
what?
in our views, but the thing is, what we view isn't based off of evolution. It's based off of our individual whims and wishes and
Yeah,
experiences.
but our individual. Do you agree that strategy is selected for by evolution? Gamblers, bad strategy, you can see it going out of existence. Business strategy.
It
What
depends on
makes you
whether
think
or
this is
not it depends on whether or not those people are successful at it.
yes?
So no, it
Like
doesn't.
if they success, that's part of the evolutionary process. I'm not talking about the biological evolution. Again, I'm talking about general evolution.
Uh-huh.
So whether or not a business survives, that's not evolution. Whether or not technology survives is not evolution.
Okay,
Is that
but
what you're
all I'm
saying?
saying is that I don't think evolution is an objective thing that we can look to determine whether or not something is moral or immoral. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my last word on
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's where we disagree. And
Hmm.
again, the final arbiter is evolution itself.
But the thing is,
Your ethic
you think is you don't
provokes
even really
people.
fully know what evolution wants.
So what? Do
Well,
you know?
then
Do you know?
you
Do you know?
can't. Then
Do
you
you know?
don't have an
Do you know if your
ethic.
moralities? Do you know
Then
if
you
your
don't have an
morality is
ethic.
true or not?
You're
Do you
saying
know if
my
your
ethic is
morality is
based
true or
off
not?
of my ethic is based off of evolution, but at the same time, I don't know what evolution wants. So it's just like your ethic is based off of basically nothing.
So where did you get the non-aggression principle from?
I heard it from other people, and then I adopted it.
And how do you know that's true?
It's the non-aggression isn't true or false. It's you either agree with it or you disagree with it.
Morality was given to us by evolution to make us more efficient.
Yes, but in the end of the
That's
day,
it.
there's no objective morality. I don't believe in an objective morality.
Well, values. Values objective. The means and goal setting is imposed on us by evolution, and it it will shape the market. And the
Okay.
non-aggression principle is just a remnant of democracy. I don't know why people who claim to be proponents of the market introduce this same ethic, this same inefficient ethic in there.
I'm
And
not sure how the
if you,
NAP has anything to do with democracy, but okay.
you know, so you agree John Locke created it, right? Or at least made the significant developments of it.
Yes.
Yeah, he's considered the grandfather of modern democracy.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that the NAP is democracy. A democracy is when
Yeah,
people
it
vote for things.
well,
NAP
you,
has nothing to do with voting. It's not a
did
system.
we
It's a
we didn't
principle.
even get into we didn't even get into taxation as theft, huh?
Oh, so I mean, we kind of got bogged
Yeah.
down. I mean, do you want to talk about that for a
Yeah.
little bit?
I know you want to broach it. I don't. First off, I don't think taxation is theft.
Okay, why not?
Because I think libertarians are missing the underlying right to
Well, what is theft?
underlying right to property.
What is theft?
Like you don't. What is theft? Okay, so under libertarianism, like I don't care about theft under my ethic, but theft is
The unconsensual taking of another
in
person's private property.
yeah an involuntary transfer of property
Okay, so
from the current owner.
wouldn't you agree that taxation is an unconsensual taking of another person's private property?
No, because
No.
it's the same thing as like homeowner association fees or rent, right? This wasn't so. In
Okay,
order for
so
it to be
rent homeowners
so,
associations, you agree to be a part of a homeowners association before you buy the house, under the condition of buying a house. And if you don't want to be a part of that homeowners association, you could just not buy the house. With a rent,
the only,
another person owns it, and you're paying that person to stay there. It's not the same.
yeah, the only
None of that
complication is
implies
natural.
theft.
No, the only complication is natural birth. How do you account for natural birth in a homeowners association? So let's assume
What do you
that we're
mean?
in Ancapistan. Let's assume we're in Ancapistan, right? And we
Okay.
have let's actually make the hypothetical exact. Let's say so anyone so joint ownership is so ownership is actually obviously possible, right? I mean, one person can own it. Joint ownership is also possible, right? Two people,
Cooperative ownership? We don't believe
yeah,
in
cooperative
co-ownership.
ownership.
No, collective. We
So
don't
you
believe
don't
in
believe in
collective
like
ownership. We only
you
believe
don't believe
in
like a corporation. You don't believe a corporation can exist,
a
or you can have
corporation can
collective.
exist. The difference is with a corporation and and a government is that the corporation owns the people who in the corporation own separate parts of one company, whereas a collective ownership is when multiple people own one specific item. It's not the same.
They don't own. They don't own a specific part of. When you're a shareholder, you don't own a specific part of that company.
You own a percentage of the company shares.
It's a percentage, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a generic percentage. It's
So
not
you
a
don't own.
specific-
It's not two people owning the same physical item. It's two people owning separate parts of the same item.
Yeah, that's
So
what
that's
you're
the
saying
difference.
you're against. There's
No, I'm not
there's
saying.
no-
I said I'm against collective ownership, not co-ownership.
It's the same thing, whether
No,
it's
it's
two
not.
people or a million.
Okay, so if
It's
you have a
fundamentally no different.
stick, right? Collective ownership is when two people own one stick. That's one item,
They can-
physical item. A
They
collective
can exclude it.
cooperative ownership is when two people own two segments of the stick. I own 50%, you own 50%. That's different, right?
No, like corporations, you can agree to have collective decision making on the whole stick.
You can agree to have collective decision making, but the people who own that stick don't own both, or all of those people don't own the whole stick together. They own portions of the stick.
No,
That is how it works.
There's no distinct portion of the physical stick that you're owning.
You're owning the value of the stick. So if you don't like what is being done with that stick, you could sell the value of that stick and then disassociate yourself with those people.
Yeah.
So collective ownership is not the same. Collective ownership is when multiple people own one item together. The whole item.
Yes. So
Okay. So
you
there
can do
is a
the same thing
difference.
you can do collective ownership with property too.
No,
You can
the
vote-
reason.
you can
Okay.
have
So
a
let's say you
democratic
have
vote
two
on how
people.
to utilize the property.
Yeah. So let's say you have two people who own a car.
Yeah.
I want to take the car to go to my job, and you want to take the car to go to your job. Who's the rightful winner within that situation? Who gets to use the car?
So do we have an arbiter? Do we have a prior agreement on how
Nope.
we decide?
Nope.
Oh, then it's
Who's the just winner within
that-
that conflict?
you keep introducing like words like just, right? That's
You don't know what just means?
complicates analysis. It's poorly defined. So
Do you not
under
know?
Under my ethic, it totally means something else. Under your
Okay,
ethic,
so listen to me.
just
Who is the just
anything
winner
that-
within that conflict?
under my ethic, it's gonna be who's more productive with it.
How
Under
do you?
your ethic, I don't even know.
So
It
then the
depends on-
person who is unable to
under
use it isn't the
libertarianism-
one that really gets to own it. Doesn't really own it.
Say that again. You talked over me.
So
Say that
if
again.
one person able to take the car without the other person's permission, then that person who isn't able to use the car doesn't really own it.
Wait, I would have to know the history. So under libertarianism, I would have to know the history of.
You don't need to know the
How
history of
both-
anything. Listen to me.
I do.
If two people own the
I-
same
I would-
car and they want to use it at the same time, can they use it at the same time?
Oh, wait, you're talking. I would understand if there's
Can
no
two people
contract
use the
involved,
same
right?
thing at the same time?
No, it's rival.
It's
a
impossible,
rival's
right?
good. It's a rival's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay.
Go
So
ahead.
if two people want to use the same thing at the same time and they both own it, who is the person that is justly
Then
able
they-
to take that thing?
Then they don't both own it.
Okay then. So then you don't believe in property rights.
No, but in another case where they agree to have a democratic vote on who uses
Okay,
the car.
what if they disagree? What if they
They-
disagree now? They disagree as to what should be happening. Now what? Who's the just winner in that conflict?
But you agree if they agree, they both own the car.
No, listen to
If
me.
They, don't
They
agree,
both agree that they both own the car, but they want to use it at the same time. They disagree as to
Yes,
how
I
they could use
understand.
it. Now,
You're
who
trying-
is the
you're
just
trying-
winner in that conflict?
Who should introduce?
Yeah, who should be the just winner in that conflict?
Who should? The person who's most productive with it.
So the person, they're both going to go to their jobs. They're both going to make the same amount of money. They're both going to make the same productivity, right? Who's the just winner in that conflict?
It's arbitrary
Exactly. That's the issue, right?
under that specific under those specific
Yeah,
circumstances.
so if one person wins out in that conflict, the other person doesn't really own it because they're unable to control the thing in which they own.
Yep.
So then your
exclusion is
notion,
the only-
yes, that's why
there's only
cooperative
criteria
ownership
for
doesn't work.
ownership.
Yeah, that's why
Yes, it
cooperative
does. If
ownership
they
doesn't work.
cooperate, That's you're talking.
But
you
what if they
change-
don't
you-
agree?
You introduce. Yeah, then they don't both own it. But if they do agree, they do both own it.
So then if they don't both own it, so then anyone can just take your thing?
That's part of owning. You have to defend it. You have to. it has
So
to
if
be
you
excluded for you. So let me just say my definition for ownership.
Mhm.
Okay, so it clarifies things. Ownership is being able to exclude the complementary group, right? So if you say a group owns something, they exclude everyone else from it, or it's excluded for them. Everyone else is excluded for them, right? From
Okay, but
that
what if
property.
two people who are
It's
within the
just an
group disagree
exclusion
with each other?
criteria.
What if two people who are within the group disagree with each
And
other?
it's
Who's the
whoever can
just winner?
exclude the other. And whoever can
So the
exclude the,
person
that's
who
it's
is
just
able to exclude the
it's
other
just
person
oh
is the
man.
one that really owns it, right?
I can't even get out like two sentences. Like you're restricting all my answers to like a segment of a sentence.
Well, and you don't need to say anything more than the simple answer to the question. If two people are disagree with each other, they both own the thing. Who's the just winner in that conflict?
Now you're introducing just ownership is so my definition of ownership was just a positive
How do you
observation.
know who? How do you know who's going to win
Now
that
you're
conflict?
introducing
Who's going to win in that
okay,
conflict?
who's gonna win? Whoever
Who
can
is the
exclude the
just
other.
winner?
Now you're introducing just. So did you see my definition of ownership? It
Okay,
was just a simple
I
positive
understand.
observation,
But what about two
not a
people in the
normative
same
one.
group? What about two people in the same group? They both own the same thing, all right? And they want to
They
do
both
two
so
separate things with that thing. Who gets to use it?
so when you say they both own it, using my definition, others are excluded from it. They can't exclude each other from it.
Okay, two people in the same group that own the same item. Who gets to use it?
They can't exclude anyone else. So
Yeah, so who can
that
use
kind of
it?
like creates a that kind of
Who
creates a
gets to use
contradiction.
it?
In a rivalrous situation, the one
No,
who
no, 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 no.
then
They both own
they
it.
don't both own it.
They both own it. They both own the same
They
thing.
both own it.
Two
So they
people
can't
both own
exclude
the
each
same
other
thing.
from it.
They can't exclude each
So
other, so then
when
nobody owns it.
no, they both own it. If so,
Okay,
if
so
they
then
still have
who gets the right to use it?
it, that's done by if they both of them, whoever decides.
You agree
They
they
can
can't do the same thing at the same time, right? With the same thing, right?
yeah, it's rivalry.
Okay, so if they
Rivalry.
want to do the same thing at the same time with the same item, who gets to use the item?
Then that violates so that violates the hypothetical.
There's a
when you
contradiction.
said they both, no, yeah, because you made it with the
Listen
way
to
you
me.
set up the hypothetical.
Who gets
you
to
said
use
at
it?
first, no, hold on. You said first that they both own it. That means they cannot exclude
Listen.
each other.
I don't believe in cooperative ownership. I don't believe in collective ownership. You believe in collective ownership. So I'm asking you: if two people own the same thing, right, and they both want to
then they
use the
can't
same
exclude
thing
each other
at
from
the
it.
same time, who gets to use the thing?
Neither of them. Neither of them. If
So they don't own it.
Well, so the way you set up the hypothetical is contradictory, and it's not.
Yeah,
because
I agree. Collective ownership is contradictory. It contradicts
no, it's not
itself.
because that's what I was trying to say. It's not because collective ownership is contradictory. You cannot say they both own it.
Okay, if it's not contradictory, then answer the question. Who
you
gets to
cannot
use
say-
it? Who gets to use it?
Either one. Like either
Either way,
one.
they can't use it at the same time. You know this. So who gets to use it?
Yeah.
Who gets to use it?
Hold on. Let me just formulate. I've just I've asked for some. I'm just trying to verbalize. I'm trying to verbalize my idea. But look. So if they both own it, like neither
Me
of
and
them
you
are
own a stick
excluded.
together. Me and you own a
means
stick
if they-
together. Who gets
that
to use
means
the
you would-
stick?
In order for anyone to own it in a rivalrous point when they disagree, the ownership would have to change.
Okay,
So
so then you
you
do.
cannot-
So then you don't believe in collective ownership. You believe in individual ownership rights.
In the context of a rivalrous situation.
So then you believe in individual
You cannot.
property rights. It's impossible for there to
No.
be two people to own the same
Not
thing because
all
if they
three-
disagree.
not all.
Okay, so then listen to me. Me and you, we have a stick. Here's a stick. Me and you want to use the stick at the same time. Who gets to use the stick? Me or you?
It depends who can exclude the other.
So if
So
I can
forget
exclude you
ownership.
from the stick, if I can exclude
Forget
you from the
ownership.
stick, wouldn't that mean that I own the stick?
Don't start with don't set up the hypothetical with any ownership. Okay, just talk about a stick.
There's two sticks. There's one stick
Yeah,
and there's two people, me and you.
Yeah,
Who
one stick,
gets
two
to
people,
use the
okay.
stick?
Whoever can exclude the other from it and
So
utilize
basically
it.
whoever owns it.
No, well, whoever can exclude the other owns it, or whoever's
Yeah,
excluded.
so whoever
from
owns it gets to use the stick.
No, it's the other way around.
So whoever
can
owns
exclude
it
the
can't
other
use the
owns
stick.
the stick. What's that?
So whoever
'Cause
owns it can't
by
use the stick.
By definition, they're excluded from the stick. By definition, if a person owns it, all other people are excluded. All other people are
Okay,
excluded.
but what if two people own the same thing?
And neither of them, so everyone else is excluded from it.
Okay,
And
but
those
what?
two
Okay, so then
people-
there's two people. They both want to use the stick at the same time. Who
And
gets
both of them
to
don't own
use
it.
the stick?
You can't set up they can't both own it and rival.
I know they both can't own it. Yeah, I disagree with collective ownership. Yeah, you agree with me.
That doesn't mean collective ownership can exist when they both agree who should use it at that point. That's only in the
what if
context
they
of when
disagree?
they disagree.
What if they disagree?
Yeah, when they disagree,
there's a contradiction there.
When they disagree, they can't have co-ownership.
Okay, so then you agree with it? Individual believing.
But when they can agree, you can't have.
So then your collective ownership doesn't resolve conflicts over the use of the scarce resource. The reason why we have private property rights, right, is so that we can resolve conflicts over scarce resource. So if you own a scarce resource and somebody tries to take it from you, I could be like, oh, I own it, so therefore I get to use it. But if two people own the same scarce resource, there's no way to tell who's the just owner within that situation. That's why exclusive ownership is why we support exclusive ownership as opposed to collective ownership, because you can resolve conflicts and disagreements between people when you have that. When you have collective ownership, you can't do that.
The non-aggression principle is only one way you can resolve a conflict of rivalrous ownership. You cannot have co-ownership when there's disagreement, right? But you can have co-ownership.
That's the contradiction. That's why we don't believe in collective ownership.
No, but not all circumstances are where the owners are disagreeing with each other.
The problem is people always disagree with each other. You can't
have co-ownership where I take the car on Mondays, you take the car on Tuesdays, and we alternate from there. That's a valid form of co-ownership, and we both agree. But in the context of when you force us to disagree.
Okay, but when you disagree.
When we have a disagreement on the same day.
And then the second you disagree, then what?
Who does it go to? Under those circumstances, you cannot have co-ownership.
Yes, so then who does it go to? Who does it go to when they disagree?
Who will society support? It will support the person who's most efficient with the
They have the same efficiency, the same productivity with the item.
And it's arbitrary, or whoever it costs less to.
It's arbitrary. So you're just gonna be like, hey, I think this guy. I like this guy's shirt, so I'm gonna pick him.
So it depends. So you said the consequence. You said the profitability is You said the
productivity is the same. They're both working the same job that pays the same amount of hours, that does the same amount of work. They just both want to use the same car. How do you choose which? How do you choose which one gets to use the car?
The costs to exclude the other have to be the same. Are you assuming that too?
Yes. Let's assume that.
And it's arbitrary. You can just
that's the issue. That's our problem with it. We don't think it's right for other people to arbitrarily choose what you can do with your own private property. That defeats the whole purpose of having private property rights.
Say it again.
If you allow other people, third parties, to arbitrarily choose what you can do with your private property, that defeats the whole purpose of having private property.
No, that's in conflict with it, but I don't think.
Yes, that contradicts the whole ideal of private property.
So I don't disagree with private property, right?
Yeah, but you agree with collective ownership, but it doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't work to resolve conflicts.
Yes, it does. Like profitability works to resolve conflicts.
Okay, but I just gave you a situation where in collective ownership, you agreed that there would be no way to resolve that conflict. Somebody would have no choice but to make an arbitrary decision on your behalf.
So what?
That defeats the whole purpose of having private property.
No, it doesn't.
All right, man. That's what you believe. All right, anything else?
Oh God! But
anything else?
Transfer of ownership was always meant, and you'll always find markets gravitating toward this because its only ethic is to maximize profit, and that's not an evolutionary mistake. It's not to defend property rights solely based upon first come, first serve. That's silly. You wouldn't. The only reason why you advocate for this is because you're in a first world country. You don't have to worry about subsistence living. If you were on a deserted island with your family and your kid just homesteaded a piece of land that another kid or another family member could utilize for the benefit of your family, you would not put up with that when you're at subsistence levels. And that rationality is what shows why all libertarianism is irrational at some point. It's not consistent with actual evolutionary value. And
I agree. It's
just
not consistent with evolutionary values.
yeah. Oh, you actually agree with that. So you agree that your strategy will go extinct. Because that's
Well,
what it
not that I
means
think
to
it's.
be.
The thing is, I don't know if evolution could have values.
You can know.
I don't think
Well, I mean,
evolution is like a living thing in which we can ask its what it wants.
you can't have a belief by looking at reality. That's what we
Well,
do
I
all the
don't think
time.
my ideology goes against evolution. I think that when you have individual private property rights, countries that have individual private property rights and respect that, they have higher GDPs, they have higher standards of living, they have higher
No,
life
no.
expectancy.
I know the evidence you're referring to. You're referring
Hmm.
to like the Fee Index of Freedom or the Heritage Index of Indices of Freedom, right? Those aren't incorporating what I'm talking about. So you've never debated somebody like a utilitarian like me that actually advocates for a pure market.
I
But
just
we
did right
disagree
now.
with them.
I just did right now.
Yeah, but you've never argued with anyone else. So you don't see why you cannot use those freedom indices against a person arguing from my perspective. Because I'm arguing for the market as well. It's just I disagree about this natural rights theory. There's gonna be you have to just just have to it's because this is all not analyzable by like mathematical game theory.
Hmm.
You gotta look at things rationally. Like why would so you would be dependent upon society to protect it for you, right?
Hmm.
Why would society be rational enough to protect property just because you were the first one to somehow utilize it in
Because we're
homesteading?
better off. Because by doing that, we are better off as a society. And that's my final word on
That's
that. All right, so
no that
I'm gonna
no.
be ending this little debate that we're doing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you the last word, and then
That was my last word. That's
that was
good
your last
enough.
word.
But
Okay.
you can't just declare. Let me just put this. Let me
Hmm.
just add this. But you can't just declare that just be better off. And evolution is the final arbiter of all value, even moral value, economic value, and it will determine what the market will look like. And it forces us to maximize a certain type of profit, and that profit is to create this to maximize the utility in creating this perfect evolutionary being, and it doesn't care about anything else, and it doesn't care about rights. Rights were a social construct of democracy, not the market.
Okay.
And Austrians, they just went awry, and they're ignored by mainstream economics for good reason. And it's not because they have it's because of logical consistency, like argumentation ethics, which is invalid, and I just couldn't get it through them that
All right, no
yeah,
problem.
it's just a
Did you have a good time talking to me?
kind of, but man, it was my throat got dry.
Well, anyways, me and you may disagree, but it seems like at the end of the day, me and you are capitalists, so at least we agree with each other on that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I had a good time having a conversation with you. Did you feel like I allowed you to? You said your piece. You said what you needed to. You made your points.
Uh, you have a tendency of talking over even just the first sentence that someone says,
Yeah, I tend to do that.
and it gets me to do it too. Like I try to like give the person. I tend to do that too, but when someone does it to me, I tend to do it back.
No, that's okay. Listen,
Unconscious.
the thing about me is I tend to just try to cut through the BS and get straight to the arguments. You know what I mean?
I get it. I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it. But
So if
some
you, but
questions.
yeah, I don't have any issue with that. But like, you know,
Are we still recording?
yeah, we're still recording.
Oh, but some questions are set up wrong,
Mhm.
so it's not necessarily a yes or no answer
Mhm.
that I can give, because I need to fix your hypothetical or something.
Yeah, no problem. All right, man. Well, I had a great time. So and it was good talking to you. Do you have anything out like that you would like to shout out for, or anything like that?
Not really, but man, I'd like to have a shorter debates, or just private debates, like
Mhm. Okay.
maybe just like a segment where I just explain mine so you understand it fully, so
Mhm.
you know where I'm coming from, and you know how to criticize it.
Well, yeah,
I think
maybe you can make
people,
your own YouTube video and send it to me. All right, man.
yeah, but
All right, it was good
all
talking
right,
to you. I hope you have a good night. And I'll see you later, man. Have a good one.
right.
All right, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching that stream. The guy, me and him seem to have very different points of views on things, but I'm glad that me and him were able to talk it out. It's pretty cool that I met him through my comment section. Somebody, we were sort of debating in the comment section, and then I was able to get him onto my show. I thought that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, if you guys like the stream, be sure to drop a like, and yeah, I'll see you guys all next.